Today, we are going to expose all of these secrets. It's taken me a long time on this spiritual awakening journey, or whatever people like to call it. I like to think of labels as methods of understanding, and I don't try to apply myself too rigidly to them. I think it's best to use them to get to know one another, to get to understand the goings on, but to never deal in absolutes because I'm not a Sith. No offense to any of my Sith brothers and sisters out there who are basically looking at Sithhood like Satanism. You didn't like the ways of the Jedi and you found that to be kind of evil, so you went over here. When I refer to the Sith as being, well, assholes or dealing only in absolutes, I'm not talking about you Sith brothers and sisters who just are walking a different path than my own. I'm referring to the true evil ones who are dominating, oppressing, and controlling all of our lives. And of course, Sith, that's just a label that was created to tell a story so that we might perhaps understand the world around us a little bit better. Truth be told, the true Sith that we are actually dealing with, the true oppressive cult like group that exists within the shadows but also out in the open, would be the Freemasons. While there are a lot of people who try to claim it was the Illuminati, the fact is the Illuminati does not exist. They are a created cover story by the Freemasons so that we're looking over here when we need to be looking this way. If you do any research, you will find that Masonic lodges outnumber all other religious institutions in every American city. This is actually true. There are more Masonic lodges in each city of the United States than when you look at religious institutions for Christianity, for Judaism, for Islam, and the list goes on. There are more Masonic lodges, 9 times out of 10, than there are other religious locations. That's a bit sketchy when you realize that we don't really talk about Freemasonry anymore. I mean, it used to be referenced, especially back, I would say, in the 50s, 60s, maybe even 70s, but my prime point of reference for the supposed gentleman's club would be the Flintstones. Of course, we remember the water buffaloes, don't we all? At least us who participated in enjoying that wonderful sitcom known as the Flintstones. But I'm afraid the true Masonic lodges, the true Freemasons, are much more sinister than that. Now, I will put this out there. I do not believe every single Freemason is an evil piece of shit. But I do believe that the Freemason hierarchy are complete pieces of shit. To keep a cult hidden, you would have to recruit a whole bunch of people to make your organization look legitimate. You would have to have a bunch of people who truly believe they are just participating in a type of gentleman's club for their own betterment and for social gatherings. Now, I would like to drop some interesting facts so that we can see that there actually is something truly sinister and truly suspicious going on in our world. First of all, we must look around and realize, and I'm sorry that I'm talking a bit like I have a stick up my ass, but while I like to be comedic 9 times out of 10, I would like this to be taken a little bit more seriously. Because it is a very serious matter, and it is life or death for quite a lot of us. So when you look around, you must realize, and we'll just deal with the United States, but this can apply to pretty much every location on the planet. You must realize we are all living in struggle, strife, and misery, and that it is quite intentional. We are all up in arms over the increased cost of groceries, the increased cost of living, and it's been going on like that for about decade and a half, 2 decades now. It really got kicked off, I would say, in the late 2000s to early 2010s. And we could see that with the recession, where we had bankers who were legitimately stealing from their own clients, that they were skimming, scamming, and funneling funds from one place to another, not for the benefit of their clients, but for their own self-interests. What this resulted in is a joke, yes, on South Park. We have your money and it's gone! But more seriously, what it actually truly resulted in was a whole bunch of people losing everything that they had, homes included. So when we look out today at the great homeless epidemic that is facing definitely California, we've got a lot of homeless here. Well, we did have a lot of homeless in San Francisco, but before the president of China came, they sort of just disappeared. That's a little interesting. But we have a lot of people who lost their homes, who lost their livelihood, and who basically lost all hope during the recession. Now, if we lived in a fair, compassionate country, especially one that was even ran a bit by greed that depended on the idea of capitalism, we would have not just bailed out the banks, as was done. We would have bailed out all of these innocent people who got fucked over completely unjustly. Because of legal loophole bullshit, people literally lost everything, and people just gave them the finger. The government, who could have made a stipulation to bail out the banks so long as they bailed out their clients, that was not done. The too big to bank fails were saved, and the people who keep the cogs a spinning in our country were left out in the cold. This includes women and children. This includes veterans. And I don't really think a person's status should grant help. I think if anyone's in need, they should be helped no matter what. But I'm just pointing out that the most vulnerable of society, the most decorated of society, they all got equally fucked. Now, when we look at this as a whole and we realize that the rest of us are being fucked just as equally bad now, because even if wages were increased, so was the price of damn near everything else, so basically nothing ever balanced out. And we've seen the erosion and the complete degradation of the middle class. Now, I understand that there is some systemic racism there, that for the most part, middle class meant you were white. I do understand that, and I do understand that women and people of color had to work twice as hard to become middle class back in the day. But what is truly important right now is that the middle class has been erased as a whole, and that everyone is now living paycheck to paycheck. Last time I checked, this was not the equality we were fighting for. Yes, it is true that we have all been made equal, but I mean, it was always true to an extent. Well, not even to an extent. It was always true that while we were told slavery was abolished, it really wasn't, because working 9 to 5, 5 days a week, having only 2 days to yourself, being told when you're young in school, hey, you can't do this, hey, you can't do that. When you're adult, you're going to have freedom. And then you get to adulthood and you're like, where the fuck is this freedom I was told all about? Gotta have a little humor there, because this is some dark shit. But that's the truth. We are all being kept in struggle. And like I said, if this was a capitalistic society being ran by the greedy, like a lot of people would like to assume, that it's just greed that's fucking up the world. No, it's sadism, but we'll get to that in a second. If it was just greed running the world, they would be running this ship. They would be steering this ship in a much more profitable direction. They would be ensuring that people are being paid proper wages, that things are priced properly, so that this imaginary spinning wheel called capitalism could exist. I mean, let's not be foolish here, folks. The entire idea of currency and of a capitalistic society, I mean, it's not a bad idea, but we've seen that in Star Trek that once we get to a certain level in the future, the currency just isn't important. That it's only a way to separate people. It's not a very good system. I mean, truth be told, any system can be good or bad, that it really is dependent on how it's ran. But whenever we're basing things on currency, it's really just to keep a status, a sense of classhood available. So, what does this have to do with Freemasons, you might be wondering? Well, for starters, Freemasonry typically is about, they do take in people of lesser status, but it's all about upping their status. It's all about taking someone here and bringing them here. And there shouldn't be an issue with that. It's just that the people in charge of everything, as we can see, are evil. Now, I use that word because I don't know what else to call it when people are literally creating a society where everyone is in a constant state of stressed out misery. Everyone is constantly worrying. Everyone is constantly sad or depressed. We are not funding community centers or places where people can come, gather, meet, explore common interests. Even social media, where that was once possible on the internet. I mean, while we did use the message boards and such to flame one another, we were also coming together and talking about our passions. And that's really kind of eroded. All people tend to talk about these days is what they hate. And I think a lot of that extreme negativity that we're experiencing is because we all understand that something terribly wrong is going on. But for the most part, we cannot put a finger on exactly what's going on because we are fed so much confusing information. And at the end of the day, to truly see the bigger picture, to actually go, I think I understand what's going on. I think I really can expose all of these secrets. You have to trust your heart. You have to trust your instincts, your intuition. And it doesn't hurt to believe in the idea of spiritual guides. There's a lot of newer ways of looking at that term and looking at that phenomena, but I like to hear and stick closer to the Native American style teachings that there are spirits around us, spirits of our ancestors, spirits of fallen heroes, spirits of those who are our guardians, who come to us because they truly see what is inside of us and want to help us bring it out because they understand from their point of view exactly what's going on, and they are going to do their best to educate us, to guide us, to nurture us, and to pick us up off the ground when we simply can't take it anymore. I think a lot of us who are practicing this new form of spiritualism, while we're trying to keep our vibrations high, I think it's important to note that there are times when we simply can't do it. Even when we're having really good days, even when things, when we feel like we're in complete control, it's very reasonable to admit that there are times when we just kind of lose our shit and become very angry or very upset because the way of the world is, it's an anger inducing society and state of life and times that we are living in. So that's very natural, that's very normal, and I don't believe that any of our spirit guides look down on us when we have bad days or when we stumble and fall. I mean, at the end of the day, they are there to help us. They are there to give us the unconditional love that we just don't get from other sources. Or if we do get that unconditional love from other sources, they're there to kind of guide us to the knowledge that is very difficult to find. So when we accept that it makes absolutely no logical sense to keep a society in this state of anxiety-induced, stress-induced panic, fear, paranoia, depression, aggression, this only makes sense not just when you're trying to control a society, because there are many ways to control a society. You could engineer a utopia level society where everyone is truly being taken care of, where we can go and have fun and joy and pleasure and splendor and wonder. That would very well control a society. There would be no reason to rebel in a society where you are taken care of, where things are wonderful. And it would be an even greater control mechanism, in my opinion, because if you do live in that society and then you do see people, trying to talk shit about it or trying to put it down or trying to cause harm to it, you would be a lot more inclined to go, fuck those people, because they're fucking with your perfect state of life. I mean, in many ways, that would be exactly how, well, that was how a lot of the middle class felt, I think, in prior times. That when people were causing trouble, they just didn't give a shit about those people causing trouble because they didn't have a reason to care. And I think it would be misguided, but ultimately not an evil-minded thought to go, well, maybe then all of this horribleness is just to awaken us. No, no, no. That's not what you do. If you are the leadership of a society, your job is to shepherd them. You would not put them through utter hell to awaken them. You go, well, there's a lot of people who need their minds changed. Yeah, and as soon as you start giving those people everything they want and need, and they're like, well, people want racist things or people want to put one over on the other people. No, that's just the panic induced mindset of people who think that if some group gets ahead, that they're going to be left behind. If everyone was put ahead and no one was left behind, no one would have reason to bitch. It's simple. We just have never seen any shit like that, so we can't sit there and, say that for a fact because it feels so foreign to us. But no, believe me, if tomorrow Congress both came together on each side and was like, we're going to take care of everyone. We're not going to stand for any racist shit. We're not going to push any of this shit on everybody, but everybody's free to live their lives. Everybody's going to be taken care of. And, the only things that will be outlawed is trying to harm or oppress others. At the end of the day, it would not be difficult to do that. It is too dependent on blaming us, the little person, to get us to accept this level of oppression and to trust that the authority truly has our best interests at heart. They fucking don't. They don't care about us at all. But it's worse than that. They truly have to want to create misery and suffering. It has to be their goal. They have to be truly evil, insane sadists who want to sacrifice people. And I don't even just mean in the ritualistic sense, although that may be going on. I think that it is truly, hey, let's make the adults, the parents, so stressed out and neurotic that they then take it out on their children. And instead of being the support system, instead of being the role models for their kids, instead of being able to be there to help them, that basically everyone just gets turned against one another. And that seems to be very much the case. Now, I find it very interesting that Disney made a film called National Treasure in the early 2000s. It deals with Masonic conspiracies. Now, it doesn't put the Masons in the evil role, but it actually kind of implies that the Masons may have been infiltrated, and that while a lot of Masons had good intentions, that things were askewed and that power and greed took over and, destroyed what should have been good intentions. Why this is so interesting is that at the same time as they are making and releasing this film, Disney buys the Grand Masonic Lodge in Hollywood, near the Grauman's Chinese Theater, as a matter of fact, in that same location. Now they renovate it, restore it, and then also choose to create a studio within that the Jimmy Kimmel program would be broadcast from. This is all opened, completed, and done around the same time of the release of National Treasure. We all know that Bond villains love to flaunt their shit in front of us, and while I am not condemning every person who works at Disney, I think it is very much the same as the Masons, that you have a lot of people who are there under false pretenses, who have been lied to, who have been recruited, and are there to maintain a status quo so that the evil goings on can be kept hidden right out in front of everyone. I also believe that there are Masons and people working at Disney and these other institutions who have good hearts, who are not these evil sadists, who become aware of what's going on and then try to use whatever means at their disposal to expose and inform the rest of the world about what is essentially a hostage crisis. Now, I use that term and I mean it very seriously, because what is extremely interesting, also involving the same Masonic location in the Jimmy Kimmel Show, is that the wonderful, hilarious Jim Carrey came on the show while he was promoting the sequel to Dumb and Dumber. I believe many of you are familiar with this clip if you are interested in conspiracies. He came on the show making all kinds of hand gestures and telling that everybody was fed up, that you're in on it. He was pointing to Jimmy, and that everybody else is in on it, and that it is the Illuminati. Now, he made it sound very much like a joke, but this was the first time that we were seeing anyone within Hollywood on a mass stage, a massive star, because there are other people who have been involved in Hollywood, Cat Williams and many others, DMX, a lot of African American artists who just don't stand for this shit. there have been a lot of them who came out and exposed it, but it was very rare to see a top box office talent come out and say anything like it. Now, to be fair, if the only thing that was in existence was that clip, I wouldn't take it as seriously as I do, knowing what happened afterwards. Now, if we are familiar with Jim Carrey, it would be very easy to remember that he had a girlfriend who committed suicide, and then a massive campaign was led to try and blame and indict Jim Carrey for what happened to his girlfriend. Now, let's get the timeline very clear. He goes on the Jimmy Kimmel Show, and then about half a year to a year later, the girlfriend commits suicide. If we at all take any of these conspiracies seriously and understand that at times certain stars were saying things that they shouldn't have, and then oopsie, celebrity overdose, or oopsie, car accident, or oopsie, they, suddenly went crazy and their public image, their career, their reputation all just destroyed. Well, I think it's very important to note what happened with Jim Carrey, because I think a lot of us might be very angry with people in Hollywood. And I don't believe everyone in Hollywood is party to this evil. I think there are certainly those within that crowd who are, but I think that the good people outnumber the evil sadists 10 to 1. But I also believe that the evil sadists are using fear as their greatest defense and their most overutilized weapon. I think what we saw happen to Jim Carrey is simply why we do not see people speaking out, because it's not just the fear of what might happen to them or their family. I think in many ways it is the fear that people simply will not listen. I think they truly believe that because so many people listen when these destruction campaigns come out against celebrities like Jim Carrey regarding his girlfriend's suicide, I think that when you have so many voices who will stand up and condemn this person, that they're afraid that the majority of people that they would try to awaken, that they would try to get that information to, simply wouldn't take them seriously or believe them. I think that they believe that any and all means would be used against them. So now that we've kind of talked about the saner aspects of what's going on, I think it's important to dive into the true supernatural paranormal conspiracy realm. We're all now under the impression that aliens are more likely than not real. I'm definitely in the camp that believes they're real. I'm definitely in the believer camp. But I also like to point out that for those who do not believe, who can't yet set foot in the believer's pool, what we're seeing would be a mass psychologically based attack on the American people. It would be a form of psychological warfare. Because we're seeing all of these news reports, we're having Congress people and intelligence agencies and servicemen and women all telling us that aliens are real. And if they're not, then why the mass conspiracy? This would be a huge mass conspiracy. Because you have very trusted people, public servants, and again, people in public office who are supporting these conspiracies. And then we have all of the unexplained phenomena that is being used to support it. So if these things weren't real, then what you would be seeing is most definitely an attack on the American people's psyche and that of the world, because the world is clearly being affected by this too, not just us. So I think that's a really interesting thing to remember, because essentially if aliens are real or if they're not real, both things point to the same answer, that those in power are in the game of control and oppression, and that the authority clearly, like I've said before, doesn't care about us, does not have our best interest at heart, and are only in the game of controlling us. And since we can plainly see that they are not leading society in a profitable, thriving manner, that it simply only makes sense that these people just want to be the mean kid on the anthill with a magnifying glass. That they truly get off on watching us struggle and suffer, because there isn't a reason for any of this. It makes no sense. It doesn't increase profits. It doesn't make society run better. It doesn't bring out the best in us. It's bullshit. So it's good to have some grounded facts before we go, holy shit, this is going to get deep and weird. Because we have to ask ourselves, if aliens are real and if there are alien allies out there, why are they not intervening on our behalf? Is it because they're afraid of us? I don't think so. I believe I know exactly what's going on, and that it does involve the Masons. I believe the Masons, at least like I've said, the hierarchy, those who are completely in on the know, those who are the controllers of society, I believe that it isn't what the lower level Freemasons believe that they're involved in, that it's a spiritualistic group and that they are simply coming together over shared common beliefs to better one another. No. I believe that these are the cults that are talked about in H.P. Lovecraft's works. I'm not saying that it directly involves Cthulhu, but at the same time, I would like to say that it involves the same basic premises and setups and levels of goings on. I believe that you have people who are either working with deep ones, dark ones, ancient gods, if you will. I believe that they are the ancient gods themselves, or another theory. And again, all of these things point to the same thing, but it's such a confusing world out there that I think the more that you find that there are many theories that ultimately amount to the same answers, that you can kind of sit back and go, all right, it doesn't really matter which theory is true, but it matters that we have some way to understand and see that the forest for the trees of what we're talking about is actually accurate. So I think the most out there premise would be, yes, that these are cult members who are in league with either aliens or what have you. You could call them demons, but alien really seems like a good word too. And I believe that the people who are working with these beings are true evil sadists, that these are the heartless of our society. And I don't believe that you or I can become them. I don't even think if you're a good person who's been broken that you can truly be brought over to that side, because when you look around at society, especially when we're all suffering and struggling as much as we do, I mean, the fact that mass shootings aren't literally, not even just mass shootings, but the fact that the world doesn't look like Grand Theft Auto being played by a very pissed off 12-year-old says a lot for you and me. It means that essentially all of us do what we're told, we follow all of the rules. So, I believe that there are evil sadists out there who like doing nothing but causing harm, misery, and destruction. And they have partnered with these groups who essentially feed off of that dark energy, and that it involves most likely ritualistic sacrifice, but also just causing people's lives to be nothing but suffering so that they can be a negative energy battery, if you will. Now, another answer for it that's not quite as out there, but also does involve supernatural forces, would be that you have a cult, like we've discussed, but it might not involve them conversing and dealing with otherworldly beings. That it might be that a long time ago, everything was basically paradise, because if we follow our spirit guides and if we actually get into that whole vibrational, spiritual kind of lifestyle, most of us will find that when we do the things we love, when we try to channel love, that we are filled with an energy we didn't have before. It's better than a Red Bull. I mean, it truly gives you wings. So when we understand that those things, again, while people don't talk about them scientifically, so we basically all just kind of have to base it on our own experiences, and we're all kind of doubtful to a certain extent of everything that's going on, because it really requires a tremendous amount of faith to just sit there and go, yeah, no, this shit is completely real. It's completely what it should be. I mean, I'll say for certain that it kind of feels stupid in a way, that when you sit there actually practicing breathing methods, and I don't just mean control breathing, but I mean sitting there going, you know what, I need to breathe in a way that makes me feel relaxed and comfortable. And whatever breathing method does that for me, that means something. And then if you sit there and you start focusing on wonderful things and things that bring you joy and happiness, and it's difficult at first, it's difficult to even motivate yourself to turn on a good TV show or play a video game. But when we start doing those things and we start noticing, okay, there was something that didn't want me to basically seize the day. There was something in my head trying to steer me away from these things that were ultimately going to make me feel better. And even if I didn't accomplish anything in the day that fixed anything, I also didn't sit there wallowing, which also accomplishes nothing. I mean, you can sit there wallowing in your misery, but you're not going to come up with a strategy or a plan or anything that's going to accomplish anything. So why wouldn't you sit there and enjoy relaxation and pleasure? And maybe, just maybe, that would keep you alive long enough so that you can truly find out that luck is when preparation meets opportunity. That a lot of times it is unfortunately just patience that is needed, that you have to just kind of ground yourself, find any way that you can to maintain a form of balance, just so that you can get to those better days, so you can get yourself to a point where you can help yourself and then put yourself in a position to help others. If there is actually some force at play that's preventing us from doing those things, that's a very interesting experience to have. And I think only people who have had. I had a girlfriend who was rather plus sized, and this shirt got stretched out, so that's why I have to keep moving her out. She was a sweet girl. But again, when only we can base our knowledge around our own self experiences, and unless you come across a lot of other people who've had those same experiences, it is kind of an insanity inducing experience because you're really having to sit there going against everything you're told and taught and realizing that happiness and finding success to yourself is really about becoming yourself and doing what works for you. I love all different forms of beliefs. I love all different forms of inspirational material, and I think that includes entertainment and pop culture as much as it includes religious materials. But I also think that, if the best kind of wonderful gods and spirits exist, that if love truly is the answer, then there's never going to be the definitive answer because at the end of the day, everything is just too simple. So I think it's truly about finding that, yes, it's about love, it's about light, it's about the idea of creation, and the beauty of that is getting to create yourself, getting to be a unique character in this wonderful show. And I really love and appreciate that. And I believe that that is very much what life was meant to be in the beginning. And then I think there were these people who found the idea of love and happiness and just hated it. And I don't mean people who have been through so much traumatic experiences that they simply cannot accept happiness. Though there are a lot of people out there like that, and they claim to hate wonderful things, they're the emos and they're the goths, but it's really not the case for them. They're trying to find their own sense of happiness because they've been through a lot of shit, and they truly deserve patience and understanding, just like we all do. But I think that there are a very evil, very hollow, soulless, heartless, small, but still very impactful group of people. And that's why my second theory would be that if there are the powers of manifestation, that these people figured out how to wield it and understood it perhaps more than the rest of us, and then imprisoned us with it. And that there aren't these beings that they're dealing with and they're feeding, but they are creating fear itself to control everyone. So that's when we get to the point of, okay, why hasn't there been intervention from aliens? Why haven't the good allies done something about this horrific evil? Well, I believe that no matter what theory is true regarding these dark evil ones, that I think they've created a narrative, much like the film Cabin in the Woods, that if certain criteria are not met or if they are truly threatened, I think they have whoever you would see as the good Federation type of allies who would be negotiating with the evil ones who would be trying to free us. I believe that the only way that these evil ones could stay alive this long, maintain their power this long, is if they are using a threat equivalent to a nuclear bomb. So much like the end of Cabin in the Woods, where the deep, ancient, Cthulhu-like, monstrous, dark beings come and just annihilate Earth because they weren't fed their virgins and their pure-hearted ones. I believe that idea is what's being used to put the kibosh on any kind of intervention. I also believe that at the end of the day, that is another reason why those in the know are cooperating with this evil and allowing it to exist instead of outright exposing and destroying it. Now, this is where I get to kind of be pointed out as someone that these good ones might not want to deal with because my spiritual group are kind of rebels, and we're looking at this situation like the end of Rush Hour, like, go ahead, push the goddamn button! Because at the end of the day, we don't believe they're going to. Not only that, we don't believe they actually have the button at all. We believe that it is all just fear that is being utilized to allow them to thrive and exist. And much like is spoken in A Bug's Life, I think they're very much aware that if a group or even one person simply stands up to them, then everyone's going to stand up to them. And that's what I'm doing, because everything I've done on this channel is to try to inspire, enlighten, or expose evil secrets that are oppressing us. It didn't necessarily, well, it did kind of start that way, but it really progressed. It's one of those things that, boy, that escalated quickly. But I truly believe that, number one, I think fear is some kind of organic force or is being utilized as a weapon, because it's very interesting that once you start standing up to fear, they start pointing the gun at you even more, which is kind of stupid, really. And it actually only makes sense if they have no power other than the power of illusion and delusion, and they just kind of make you afraid of everything. Because if these evil bastards truly wanted to keep a lid on their secrets, then they wouldn't come after you even harder when you start opposing them. Because if they wanted you to feel insane, then they should just leave you alone. Because then you'd be like, maybe I was wrong. But the more that they pile on, and then the more that you start fighting back, and the more you start being able to fight them back and going, hang on, all this stuff, all these panic attacks, all of these weird body aches, all these health issues seem to be going away, the more that I just think, they ain't shit. It doesn't matter. It's just an illusion. It's just their piss poor pathetic attempt to fight us. And at the end of the day, that's the conclusion that I've really reached. That the evil ones who are oppressing us so much, who are causing so much misery, are truly the most powerless cowards to ever exist. And it's because I've seen enough proof that I do believe in this supernatural, paranormal business. You know, it is kind of just like the show Supernatural. It is a lot like the Lovecraft mythoses of cults and deep ones, except that the deep ones actually hold no fucking power whatsoever. It makes no sense that they would, if you have the power to destroy a planet and you feed off of misery, I mean, why wouldn't you just openly rule over us and truly make our lives miserable? That would be very scary, and that would keep us all locked in panic, wouldn't it? I mean, the only reason that you would hide behind all of these illusions, all of this misinformation, all of this head-spinning bullshit is because at the end of the day, you're the pathetic little coward in the corner of the room who just wants to hold power over everyone. And I don't even think it's as much as that they hate the idea of happiness so much as they hated the idea that everyone are essentially their own god. That while we can give thanks to the spirits around us, we can be grateful for the creating force that made everything, we can also be equally proud of ourselves, and we can manifest that what we want, and we get to know that we're being helped, but it essentially is the fact that everyone would be equal. And that's what these people clearly don't want. That's the only reason to have a society like this, is because they want to be stepping all over us, because that is their only joy, to feel like those drunk Greek gods who just get to rule over everything. But that's what I'm saying. If you have the power to push the goddamn button, then why are you hiding behind all of this secrecy? Why are you not just outright ruling over us? They would still get to use all of the kind of fear and all of the kind of manipulation to get us to do things against our own natures, to get us to hurt people we care about. So it's not even that they wouldn't get to play their favorite game, which is, using their power to force the rest of us to do things that we would never do, to rule over us. They would literally get to play all of the same games. So that's why I completely and utterly believe that they are completely and utterly fucking powerless. And the more that I get on that bandwagon, the more I start looking at things this way and believing these things, wouldn't you know it, that I have way more energy than I have had. That I'm sure, like the rest of you, that you get up and you have intentions to do fun things, and then you're like, well, I want to eat first. And after eating, all you can really do is think about, well, maybe I'll lay on the couch and watch sitcom after sitcom, or maybe I'll just go take a fucking nap if you have that ability. A lot of us are dealing with lower levels of energy than we've ever had in our entire lives, and there's a lot of us who are thinking maybe it's just because we're getting older. Fuck that. That's not the case, because you have people like Chuck Norris who fucking have way more energy and strength at 50 than we have at 30. I mean, go watch Walker, Texas Ranger. It's a great show. I don't care if you think it's cheesy or campy. It's great, and I love the spiritualism that's in it. But just getting to see a 50-year-old kicking ass like that and doing the majority of his own stunts, and then knowing that, even up until I think his 60s, Charlie Bronson was still doing his own stunts. It's like, all right, age ain't nothing but a number. It ain't got shit to do with this. There is something else going on. So, yeah, I truly believe that I know all the secrets, that I've exposed them. I think that they use the idea of fear, and they create these wars, and they create all of this hoopla distraction around us, so we just don't, turn and look at that fucker in the corner and go, get him! But truth be told, we don't even have to do any kind of physical violence to beat these evil fucks. We just have to expose what's going on. We don't have to be completely correct with our theories. We just have to be pointing in the right direction, It doesn't matter if our theories are completely correct. It matters that we are looking out at the forest and we're having some understanding of it. That we're going, all right, look at the simple facts. Either aliens are real or aliens are not real, but this entire hoopla is just some form of control. Because even if they're real, they're just trying to control how it's told to us, so that, people don't just openly come out and go, hey, everything in the X-Files is real. They've been keeping it from us. Because that would just be another reason to rebel against them, and that's what they're trying to stop. They don't want us to truly sit down and go, all right, they have never served any constructive purpose ever. All they've ever done is pit us against each other and fuck us all over. So why are we even giving them any power any time of day? Why are we expecting them to ever listen to our protests, to our panels, or whatever that shit is on change.org, where you get to people to petitions. Forgot that fucking word. Yeah, they're not going to listen to our petitions. They're not going to listen to our protests, because it's not in their interest, because their interest is about ruling over us. So I think we've covered pretty much everything now. There's a lot of good content here that looks at other things in other ways. And, there's also some angry content where, maybe I'm blaming people I shouldn't, like certain people in Hollywood who might just be cowards who are believing the bullshit that they've been sold, that there's some magical button out there that they're going to push if we don't do exactly what we're told to do. But I think that's utter bullshit, because like I said, if you have that kind of power in the first place, then you would openly rule over us. You wouldn't need a bunch of celebrities and a bunch of politicians to create the kind of spin that, makes this person go after that person and makes this person bow down and submit. There just wouldn't be a need for it. So that's my hill. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And the only other thing I would add is that I think a lot of these people talking about vibrations and the spirituality, I firmly believe in it all. But like I said, only evil deals in absolutes. So find what works for you. So long as you have found something that makes your life better, that gives you more energy, that gives you more hope, that makes you a more loving person, and it doesn't matter what form that love comes in. It doesn't matter if you're the dark goth in the corner or if you're the cheering, bubbly cheerleader out there, That does not matter. I think good vibrations come in many forms, and I think that the wonder of this world is finding our own character and our own vibration. So by all means, listen to as many people as you can, take in as much information and knowledge as you can, but at the end of the day, find your own way with it. Mix and match. Collage that shit. Alright, thank you so much for listening. It's been a pleasure to battle evil with you. It's been a pleasure to try to bring you not the whole absolute truth, but the truth and information that I definitely believe will set us all free. So, that is the goal here, folks. Let's not get hung up on he or she was right or wrong. Let's just start really realizing that it's about freeing us. It's not about being right. It's not about being the smartest. It's just about opposing this fear that is trying to keep us from speaking out, that's trying to take away our joy. That's what this is all about. And I definitely want to work with all of you. I don't want anyone to be a little mini me. You know, I love that people like listening to people, but I want us to follow our own drum beat, and I want us to find our own way, and I want us to be inspired and enlightened by one another. And I think that you can do that without trying to be an absolute leader. I think the only thing that I would want to do that might single me out with a little bit of a narcissism, with a little bit of, gosh, I don't even know what you'd call it, but the only thing that I would want to make me separate from others, to make me more special than others, is I would like to be the one to take on the feared beast itself. And that's what I've been trying to do every day anyway. You know, the one thing that I would like to do that might make me special, that might make me the chosen one. And I know you're already going, I'm going to turn off now, but just hear me out here. I would like to be your shield. I would like to be the sword defending everyone. And I think it would be great if there were a lot of people who had that mindset. The only reason that I'm stating it is that I know they've literally tried to kill me through my diabetes and through other means. And they've tried to make me go insane, and it really is a battle. And at the end of the day, like, I would love for that to be not what makes me special, but I would love for that to be my sacrifice. Not that I'm sacrificing myself, because I believe I'm divinely protected and nothing can fucking touch me. But I would love to be the one who's the Superman, just putting themselves out in front of everybody else to protect them, just because that's what's in my heart. That's always been something that I deep down aspired to be, and I never thought I could be. And now I'm getting, you know, those whispers that's telling me, hey, that's the one thing you can do, because this isn't actually about going out and fighting a physical fight, which, yes, would be fun and exciting. But it's about fighting a spiritual fight. It's about calling out the worst invisible dementor, demon, fear force, dark force, whatever you want to call it. And it's just standing up to it going, hey, I'm not afraid anymore. And I'm not going to run back in the house like Kevin McAllister, because I'm really not afraid anymore. You might can piss me off. You might can make me get really angry. But I'm not afraid. I just get really pissed off, and then it makes it hard to channel my, you know, more wonderful vibrations. I've even came to the point that I think those that we might mistake for demons and we might think are working against us, that it really isn't their choice, but that these evil forces utilize people who have a weaker sense of will, a weaker sense of chi, whatever you want to look at it as. And they simply puppeteer them against us. And then I think that it's really to hurt our own vibration, because it makes us, at the end of the day, end up disliking, despising, or losing control against those that we actually care about and would want to save. And I think sometimes we have to accept that we have to accept these people for how they are, and that they're going to be kind of a nuisance at times, but that we should ultimately maybe not keep them so close that they can ruin our day all the time. But we shouldn't completely kick them out of our lives. We should find our own way of being strong enough with our will to actually have boundaries, and that when those people cross those boundaries, that it just reverberates them back instead of doing anything to us. Because I think at the end of the day, any way that you can show your strength of will, I think that is what truly terrifies those in the dark who are trying to do us harm. And I think that's one of my greatest missions. I think that a lot of us have that mission. But dang it, I know a lot of you are tired and as exhausted as I am, but I'm not, gonna rust. I'm not gonna put down the sword. And I would like to take on more of the brunt of it so the rest of you can go out, smoke a cigar, get a cigarette, whatever that's not the healthiest thing to do, but you know what I mean. I would love to give you a 5-minute break. Why? Just because, why the fuck not? I've battled it this far, and all it does is just kind of drain me. It doesn't kill me. And, if I truly believe that nothing can hurt me and that I'm so divinely protected that these bitches better be running, then why wouldn't I do you that solid? Because at the end of the day, I really love everyone. Even the people who piss me off. Like, at the end of the day, when I get angry at people who piss me off, it's just because I'm like, can't you just be cool, man? Can't you just fucking be the person that I'd like to hang out with again? Because I miss that person and I love that person. And I know that you can be a chill, cool person at times, so why can't, fuck? That's where the anger comes from. I think it's how a lot of us feel. So anyway, thank you so much. You're all my Ohana. And remember, Ohana means family, and family means no one gets left behind or forgotten. And I'm certainly not going to leave behind or forget about evil. I'm going to kick the shit out of them until they burn and never fucking return. Later days, folks. And by the way, Disney Plus, put Weekenders on, motherfuckers! Alright, peace out.